Should Terence Crawford be worried about, all the steroid talk about Eddie Reynoso? Obviously, there's a lot of talk on boxing social media, boxing Twitter. Everybody's flaming the Canelo camp, specifically Eddie Reynoso, because multiple fighters have now tested positive, failed drug tests ahead of, big fights and whatnot. But for Canelo Alvarez, obviously, if you smell smoke, maybe there's a fire. So I feel like for Terence Crawford, maybe he's thinking and scratching his head and being like, is this dude on steroids? I don't know what the blood test situation is, but, I think it's fair for Terence Crawford to kind of speculate and be a little bit concerned. Like, am I going to be fighting a Canelo Alvarez that's on PEDs? Hearing all this news about Canelo and whether or not, he's the same fighter. Is he still have that energy, the gas tank? Is he still, punching as hard and whatnot? That's all stuff that can be impacted by PEDs. Now, I don't want to, put any claims out there that Canelo is definitely doing PEDs. It's just, a lot of speculation within the boxing community, because obviously if Munguia is testing positive, failing tests, and then, obviously Canelo's had a history of it, you gotta be realistic. And, a lot of people talk about whether or not fighters are on PEDs, but Canelo's actually failed tests before, so it's like kind of fair for Terence Crawford to be talking about that. But for Terence, it doesn't seem like he's worried about it. If you guys saw the face-off, you guys already know, like, it's real business. These guys are ready to go. There's no more nice guy attitude or anything like that, nice guy talk. But I feel like these guys really want to beat each other. You got a battle of egos. When you see these two face off, you can tell no guy really wants to lose at all. You could look at Terence Crawford, he looks ready. Look at Canelo Alvarez, he's ready. He said in the press conference that you don't have to worry about it. Terence Crawford's not going to beat me. That's what Canelo said. He's very confident. I like the energy from Canelo. It looks like he's really going to be locked in. Like, there's going to be no excuses for this one. But I understand, what's in front of him as well. Terence Crawford's not an easy fighter to handle if you're Canelo Alvarez, especially because Terence is fast. He has good IQ. He hits hard himself. People are forgetting about that. They're talking about the weight classes for a reason. And I understand that. That's good, reason for why Canelo can win. But also Terence Crawford has that hand speed advantage. He's got the longer arms, and I feel like Terence Crawford has fought better opposition, at least, when it comes to prime versions like Gamboa, Mean Machine, you're talking Sean Porter, that version of him, and then what he was able to do, against other guys like Kell Brook, Earl Spence. I feel like they have similar resumes because, Canelo's obviously beaten, the likes of Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, but like you talk about all these big names, Triple G, the first fight was a draw, and then later when he fought Triple G, it was just like he was out of his prime already. So in all honesty, I feel like this fight could really go either way. It's all about whether or not, Canelo's conditioning is there. I've said that so many times at this point, but I know it's a close fight, in my opinion. I don't see it as a blowout either way. I think if Canelo's going to get it done, he's going to have to land that big money shot and prove to Terence Crawford why he doesn't belong at 168. And for Terence Crawford at 168, he's going to have to take advantage of the hand speed, the foot speed, and the IQ, make Canelo work to land his shots. And, Terence Crawford already said he doesn't have to knock him out. He just has to get his hand raised, and that's the truth. Like, I think right there, Terence Crawford already gave away what he's going to do on fight night against Canelo Alvarez. He's not going to try to slug and exchange with him. There are going to be moments when he does that, but it's not going to be the entire fight because he's going to make Canelo work for it, And for Terence Crawford, I feel like he's very, well educated when it comes to executing a game plan. It's nothing new for him, So I feel like I'm still sticking by my pick. I still think Terence Crawford's going to win, but you could sense a little bit of, nervous energy from Crawford in the face-off. I think that's fair to say. When they did their little stare down and whatnot after that, you could look at Crawford. He looks a little bit like, this is real, Canelo. I'm really fighting Canelo, but, he's just as much of a legend as Canelo is. If you're calling both these fighters a legend, I think this is a great matchup. I think Terence Crawford and Canelo, you're getting the puncher versus the smaller guy. Canelo's the heavier hitter, but Terence Crawford can also hit hard. He has the talent to, withstand Canelo's shots. We'll see about that, but I think it's going to be a good fight regardless. I think Canelo and Crawford are going to put on a good show, and I'm hoping, you know, that's the case, unless Canelo really doesn't come prepared and his conditioning isn't on 100. That's the only way I could see, you know, Canelo really having a hard time and potentially getting embarrassed by Terence Crawford. But with this whole knockout bonus, I feel like that's more motivation for Canelo to show, you know, Terence Crawford that he can cut the ring off and land something big and get that knockout bonus, because I really do think that, you know, the biggest path to victory, you know, for Canelo Alvarez is to stop Terence Crawford. But if he doesn't, you know, there's a good chance that Crawford wins a decision. So we'll see what happens. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next Boxing video. Peace.